You are one of the leading authorities when we talk about Black men and their mental health and wellness. But you had your own journey to
Yes.
mental health. You said in some of your interviews that your parents' divorce at 13 years old was
Hmm.
really a life-shattering event for you.
Yeah, it was because I come from parents who were pastors, and
Hmm.
my dad is still pastoring to this day. But it was an interesting household because my mom was Pentecostal. And so, if you know anything about Pentecostal
She
Assemblies
was
of God,
shouting.
she was
She
shouting,
was
she was
running and
speaking in
shouting.
tongues,
Yeah.
she was radical. But my dad was Baptist, which is more traditional,
Yeah.
more rigid. And it was an interesting household because both of my parents were very aware of my uniqueness and the calling that God had on my life. Like I preached my first sermon at 9 in front of 200 people,
Wow.
and so from the age 9 to about 12, like my parents took me all over the state of Mississippi speaking to conferences and a lot of youth events. And the most challenging thing for me is what we had to live Monday through Saturday because we got to see a father who would preach on Sunday, but then we got to live with a man that we didn't know Monday through Saturday. And that was very difficult for me to comprehend because I had such a level of understanding that this is not how it's supposed to be. And I think the divorce was so shattering because as much as I understood my father proclivities, I also was trying to understand how would I make it now when I don't have a model and I don't have anything in front of me that is showing me that. And that's why the divorce was so difficult for me because I admired my father. I wanted to be like him. He was a heck of a football player, and he had started the football thing where my uncle and my cousins and even myself, all had the opportunity to play professional. And my father was a powerful preacher, and I wanted to be him.
Yeah.
And when he told my mom, or he called us into the room and says, I'm divorcing your mom, it just broke me down because I now had to console my sisters and to see the pain in their eyes because they're daddy's girls, but also the pain of me as a little boy to say, well, what do I have now?
Yeah.
And that was challenging, and which led to me falling into what I came to know as depression. I began self-harm, cutting on myself at 13, not knowing why.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I realized is that most people will cause external pain to numb internal pain,
Yeah.
because the more that I'm doing this and I'm saying to myself, I don't feel it, the more it allows me to not give attention to what's
To
really
what was
going
really
on
happening.
inside.
Yeah.
And that's what really started the suicidal thoughts and depression. And my mom moved us to Texas, and after moving to Texas, she shortly married another preacher. Go figure.
Mama had a
Yeah,
type.
yeah,
Yeah,
had a
mama
type.
had a type.
Yeah,
She
had
had
a
a
type.
type.
And she married this preacher, and he was physically abusive toward me. And he would come in my room at night and beat on me. His whole thing was, I'm gonna make a man out of you.
Oh
And he was a
wow.
little guy, so I knew he had little man syndrome. And so,
Right.
well, and one of those things was that I could see, and it was just, God has always dealt with me in such a unique way. I can see that there was something going on, and I couldn't put my fingers on it. So one day I told my mom, I said, Mama, I don't think you should stay with this guy. And looking from a healed lens, I can also understand why she made that decision. This is a single mother who
Yeah.
doesn't want to raise
Yeah.
her kids,
Yeah.
who just left a 15-year marriage, and she was a first lady. And I mean, and in her mind, I just want some help.
Yeah.
And not knowing that the help would also come at the pain
At your
of her
detriment. Yeah.
to my detriment. And so the last encounter I had with him, he put me to sleep in front of my sister, put me in a chokehold until I passed out.
And how old were you at this
At
time?
this time, I was 14.
Wow.
And when I woke up and came back to consciousness, he was standing over me like, yeah, nigga, that type of thing. And my sister was just like, and she's like 8, 9 years old, and she was just like, and I had a best friend, Andrew Marr, who I had told what happened. And Andrew told his parents, Shirley and Woody Marr. And I was, spending a lot of time over there. And they said, Jay, we want you to come stay with us. And so I spent the last 2 years of my high school living with a white family.
Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, live with a white family.
So all of this is going on. You're cutting yourself. You're harming yourself. And are your parents even knowing about this?
No.
Is this registering at the house?
No. I think, of course, my stepdad made me such a villain, and he would tell my mom, he spiritualized everything. That boy got demons in him. That's what's wrong with him. We need to cast out this demon.
Goodness.
So true story. One day, he called himself trying to perform this. We would call it, white people or church would call it exorcism.
Exorcism. Yeah.
But we would call him, when you have to, what do they call it in the black churches? Gosh, I can't. It'll come back to me. But his whole thing was we're gonna pray, and we're gonna cover him, and we're gonna cast his spirit out of him. And so they laid me down on the floor and was praying over me and all of this type of thing.
So who is this? Your stepfather and your mother?
Yeah.
And your mom.
So, and my mom was in a place where I don't think that she could fully see and make clear decisions. Because I'm sure that she was still hurting.
Yeah.
And in her hurt, she didn't make very good decisions, as any of us, which is why it's important for us to not choose when we're in pain. Because choosing when you're in pain doesn't allow you to make a careful, considerate, or advised decision, because you can't really think properly. And pain has a unique way of distorting the brains, and particularly when pain is attached to trauma. And so there was much trauma with my parents' marriage, from the violence, from the abuse, and all of those different things. And so I can have grace from my mother in this season, even though at that time I couldn't really understand it, and I really didn't like her. Because of the decision she made, and because of what it caused me. So they do the whole exorcism thing, and it doesn't work, because I know there's nothing wrong with me, and I know it's this nigga. So that's what it really is. And so it's him. And so I told my mother, I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this. And so I stayed with the Marr family for 2 years. And the powerful thing about it, Brandi, was that Shirley, which is the mom in the Marr family, they knew the pain that I had endured and the abuse. And that woman would sit up at night with me, because I would be crying and just in tears of just not understanding. And that woman would just speak life, and she would say, "Sweet boy, I hate that you're going through this." She says, "But God has such a great calling on your life." And I was like, why do you keep saying that? Because oftentimes it's hard to comprehend that something great is going to come out of something that is so painful.
Yeah.
And that was the challenge for me. And I'm like, why do you keep saying these things? Because when I go back home, it's not a great experience.
Yeah.
But when I'm over here, I get this love, I get this attention. And I had never, Woody, which is the father, and he's a big, tall guy. Woody's about 6'7", and all of his kids are big kids. And they had 4 boys. For the first time I saw a man pick up his son and kiss him on his cheek, and it was normal. I had never seen that, because my father was not affection. I'd never seen my father kiss my mom, hold my mom's hand.
Wow.
In fact, when they would be at church, my father would keep his distance from her. And I was just like, that's interesting. And I know for me, even in relationships, I'm overly affectionate, because my father wasn't. I consider the woman being seen and being known because my mom wasn't seen.
Yeah.
And knowing the traits of my father, him not wanting to be seen with her also created space for him to create other relationships.
So he had outside.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. So, and I'd never seen a man hug his sons, and Woody would say, "Jay, come here, let me hug you, buddy." And I was just like, kind of apprehensive, and apprehensive because how often that our black boys console, comfort, giving affection, and study shows that boys need 6 times more hugs than girls.
Wow.
Because the hugs also develop our emotional aspect of who we are as human beings. And it wasn't anything that they looked at as if, no, because, and he would look at his sons and he was like, "Who loves you?" They'd be like, "You do, Dad." And I would just sit there, I was like, wow. And as much as they was loving me, because the thing that was so powerful, I was never treated any different.
Yeah.
They bought me my first car.
Wow.
All of us had cars. And I never forget, one night, Woody said, "Jay, come on, take a ride with me, buddy." I was like, all right. It was like 8 o'clock at night. So we driving to this empty parking lot. And there's a car sitting there. And he said, "You see that car, buddy?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "That's yours." And man, I just broke down because no one has never given me anything, a man in particular, because the things that I wanted from my father, he was unable to give me.
Yeah.
And that is where I learned how to love and have that for men, because I saw that with Woody and his sons. Yeah. And most times men have a difficulty expressing it because we haven't experienced it.
Hey, Vault family, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this clip, make sure to check out our full interview on our channel at Vault Empowers Talks. We don't just scratch the surface. We dive deep into the lives of some of the world's most influential leaders and change makers. Don't forget to like, to comment, and be sure to subscribe for more inspiring conversations. See you next time.